All right, hello everyone, and welcome. This is Jason Love with Co-Optimus, and I am here today with the fine folks at QC Games. I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves in a second here, but we are checking out Breach, and joining me is...
Hi, it's Gabe Amatangelo, Chief Creative and Game Director.
Matthew Soley, producer on Breach.
And playing against us today, we got Anthony Chow. He's being a little bit evil, but that's okay.
He normally is.
There we go. There's that evil laugh, maniacal laugh, maniacal laugh. So yeah, Breach is. I'm gonna do our best to kind of run through everything that we've got here in the time that we've got. But this is your action RPG meets MOBA meets. What were the other genres that we were running through prior to all this?
Action game as far as the aerial combat and third-person shooter a bit, MMO a bit. It's got a lot of influence.
Yeah, and there's one of the things that we'll talk about is as you can kind of see. So Gabe there is playing the class Nighthawk. You see him knocking enemies up in the air and comboing them. I'm playing Chronomancer, so I'm using debuffs on everybody. There is just a lot of things happening at once, but it's very. I have no good way of breaking this down because it's sort of a mixture of a lot of different genres, but it's. Left 4 Dead meets Monster Hunter meets I don't even know how many other things I can run through here, but it's all very it's meshed together in such a great way that it makes you feel like you're playing something wholly unique. Like there's ideas here that I recognize and I see from tons of other genres and other games, but it's never been put together in this way and in such a way that I really feel I'm going to get way too addicted to this.
Right on. Yeah, and then we've got the dungeon crawl. It's 6 different rooms, and you've got to fight monsters throughout it. And then in the 7th room is the boss fight. And then in each of the rooms are sub-objectives, which you can see in here. It's to defeat enemies in time. Oh, wait. Okay, I got to focus. Anthony's picking on me right now.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah. So Anthony has the Veil Demon here. So there's a little bit of like a... we got an Elite, too. A little bit of a Dungeon Master vibe here with the fact that Anthony is playing as the Veil Demon, so the one who kind of is... has his own abilities that he can use to kind of thwart heroes. One of which was that cage that we saw Gabe was in for a little bit. He also has an ability where he can spawn in these elites, so this Foo Dog Annihilator. He can do other things like each one of the Veil Demons. There's actually a few different Veil Demon classes, and they have their own abilities that you can kind of mess around with. So, like the best analogy I have is Evolve, the way that you had the different monsters in Evolve that you were tracking down and chasing, but this one is much more higher level, so you're actually controlling things as you go as opposed to just constantly hunting one monster. Yeah, and as Gabe was mentioning, there's 6 rooms in a boss room. There's those objectives that you can see at the top, so bringing in the kind of MOBA ideas. As we go into each one of these rooms, we have an objective that we have to try and complete, and as we do, we get experience, team experience that gives us new abilities that we can access and kind of level up for this particular match, this particular round. If we fail and the Veil Demon wins, then they get those abilities and they can level, get increased abilities. So we are not doing great against Anthony right now. We are going to hopefully win this next one and show you off some of those passives. But jumping back a little bit from all this, where'd you all come up with like the initial idea for this? Where was the foundation for, hey, let's make a game that is this mix of so much stuff?
So the focus is a bunch of us worked on like MMOs and action RPGs and stuff like that, and we wanted to bring sort of what we considered the best parts of those genres, which is like the co-op experience of dungeon crawls, and we wanted to kind of make it a bit more accessible, a bit more of kind of just like fun and pick up instead of having to treat it kind of like a part-time job that you always have to get to. And one of the key elements is I'm trying to like focus on this while
Yeah.
answering this stuff too, because Anthony is being brutal. He's having fun with this opportune moment because he normally doesn't beat us. So yeah, so some of the key like things is kind of like taking a look at like MMO dungeon crawls and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, what are the elements that we enjoy? What are the elements that we feel are kind of challenging to be more accessible, and what are the things that kind of like just suck, I guess. And one of the things is like, hey, if you get into it, vertical progression, you gotta keep up with it as a part-time job if you ever want to introduce your friends to it and play it. So we wanted to lean into horizontal progression, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The other element was just the replayability, right? It's like once you get something, you play a dungeon or a raid, you're like, oh, this is fun, this is cool, and then you get into sort of a farm status, and then it's just all about getting that RNG loot drop, right? And kind of the dynamic nature of it passes, and it's like you got to get, new content or the next dungeon crawl to kind of re-engage you again. And so the latter, that replayability is kind of what was the birth of the idea of having a Veil Demon element, which is whenever you go through a dungeon crawl, be that in our game, be that PvP where the Veil Demon is controlled by a player, or just co-op where it's controlled by AI, the Veil Demon, there's a bunch of different iterations of the Veil Demon, a bunch of different things the Veil Demon can do, and it kind of changes up your experience in the dungeon crawl every time. And there's also, when you play against AI, there's difficulty modes of the Veil Demon and how he behaves and how he uses these things. For example, this Veil Demon we're playing against right now, called the World Shaper, it's very much focused on changing the environment, creating cage traps, lava on the floor, and pushing players into them and pushing them off ledges and stuff like that. Another Veil Demon, the Soul Fiend, is very much about possessing and empowering monsters and just making them kind of Hulk out and really giving monsters new abilities. Another Veil Demon is the Taskmaster, not about possessing or laying traps, but more about directing and saying, everyone attack this guy, and all my monsters come over to this location, and empowering the monsters in sort of a puppet master kind of way. And then there's another Veil Demon that's the Veil Shifter, that's just kind of unique and different. It's like targets a hero and puts the hero in another dimension where it's just you against the Veil Demon directly. And so all that can happen in AI, it all can happen in co-op. And that, on top of these 6 different dungeon crawl levels we have, just adds a unique feeling in every situation. And then the other elements, going back to the whole horizontal progression versus vertical, means like you could play this hardcore for like 3 months and then introduce me to the game, and we can play together right away. Why is that? That's because all the loot you get in the game, and as you level up your classes, you're able to customize and kind of change them in a horizontal kind of way. You can kind of tailor them and create the class you want to create. So you might have more class options, and you might have customized something to be really unique to you. And I jump in and I play a class by default. They're both on the same kind of power level, but yours is more your own. And you might have more answers for really pushing the meta and stuff like that, because that inevitably always happens in kind of open systems. There will be a meta, tier list, those types of things.
Sure.
But the idea is very much like a MOBA. There'll be free classes that you can play. You'll have some classes that you own yourself as a free player, but there'll be that rotation as well. And so I can just pick it up and immediately start playing this dungeon crawl and having fun with it. So kind of a long way of getting back to your original question. What was the start, the seed point of this was, hey, let's introduce what we believe are the most fun things of the RPG genre to kind of a wider audience, and let's take some lessons from some other genres and things that we feel they've done right and kind of bring it into this. And that comes from the co-op, on just how Left 4 Dead did some of its game models. It comes from MOBAs and how they did some of their progression models, session progression as well as character progression. It comes from action combat games and how they made everything kind of intuitive and visceral, and you kind of just naturally learn how to get better at your class. Like the Horus Gladiator, which we were taking a look at earlier. It's like you launch them up in the air, and if you don't do anything, you drop to the ground. You don't have to monitor buffs or debuffs. You kind of just know that it's like, oh, my 4th hit in the attack is an overhand that knocks people down. All right, well, what if I only go 3 hits into it, and then in the 4th, instead of doing my 4th hit in my basic attack chain, I use my Cyclone Blade, which is an upward hit. And it's like, okay, well, that upward cyclone hit is going to keep the guy juggled. And now I can restart my attack chain and keep him in the air longer. So that's a long-winded way of saying we took a page out of the book of action games as well to just make sure all of the co-op and the depth of your classes are just kind of visual and visceral. And we feel we did pretty good at it. I mean, there's still elements that you do have to kind of like read tooltips and stuff like that, but it's a lot farther along than I would say the traditional MMO as far as just kind of understanding how to dive into the depth of your classes visually.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great indicators for when effects are popping, when things are happening. A lot of information too. Just trying to learn a class is very interesting, and one of the questions I asked you before was like, how do you kind of tutorialize some of this, and how do you teach people not only here's your abilities, but here's good instances for when to use them?
Yeah. So that comes from the, like I was saying, the visuals of the classes, but also just the scenario and the situation, right? Like if Anthony just spawned one of his elite monsters there, like his sub bosses, which that's, by the way, another thing the Veil Demon can do. We've got 10 different elite monsters that are kind of like mini bosses, and the Veil Demon can pick 2 in every level, and then he can summon them multiple times throughout the level. And he summoned it there. In my class, the Nighthawk is particularly good at juggling and kind of locking down a single strong monster. So one of the things Anthony could learn is basically get me in this cage here and then summon the monster. Yeah, summon the monster. Well, summoning it on me directly. Hold on, I can't like do my abilities and hold my push to talk button at the same time. Well, normally, summoning it on me in the cage is not actually the best bet because I'm particularly good at locking down a single elite monster, so it would have been just like an easy ride for me there. I'd launch him in the air, juggle him, etc. But if he was to lock like the healer in there, the healer's particularly vulnerable to the impact of this big guy, and so it could have done a massive punishing.
Yeah.
Or he could have locked me in the cage just to keep me out of the mix and then summon the elite outside of it because I can't fulfill my role while I'm captured in there. So that's another one of those things of like you kind of just like learn it as you play it, but hopefully it is it's straightforward as you get to know the stuff.
Yeah. One of the things, so I've seen before as we go through.
Anthony. Sorry.
We've had some loot drop for everyone. And that's instance for each player, right? Like, so whatever drops is for me. It's not like everybody run over here and try and grab stuff before your friends do.
Yeah, so you'll see if you in the chat log it shows the loot that you're getting as you're killing the monsters. We don't have the visual in this build here, but the idea is that you would see some loot splash, it would land on the ground, and then after a time it just vacuums to you, so that you don't. Damn, we're about to go in the boss fight, and we only got 1 talent pick. And Anthony has all of his talent picks. But I'm sure he'll go a little bit easier on us because we're in the middle of an interview. But that's a good play there, Jason, with your cease continuum. It freezes all the monsters or brings them down to 5% speed. It's a particularly fun ultimate on the Chronomancer there when you're against a lot of ranged monsters because their projectiles freeze like midair, kind of Matrix style.
Yeah.
Little visual. But before Anthony rudely interrupted us, what was I saying?
Talking about the loot as it drops and everyone seen it in the text log.
So we don't have the visual element, but the idea is that it splashes off the monster, it lands on the ground, and then after a couple seconds, it vacuums into you. So you don't have to like kind of stop the gameplay to go collect the loot, and the Veil Demon can't like trap your loot and stuff like that. We didn't feel that was like a focus of fun gameplay. So it's auto loot essentially, but it does take a page out of the book of RPGs and just kind of how it's like fun and interesting and stuff like that, and kind of just rewarding and satisfying. And then that loot applies to those talent picks that you get throughout the session progression based on what loot that you have equipped when you first go into the match.
Yeah, and this is the speaking of, like, probably won't have a ton of time to show that off, but it's interesting the way that the loot works here is less about like buff to damage or damage resistance or stuff like that. It's more about the way that it affects those talent picks, which we've only seen a couple of, but like the talents that you can pick up. There are some gems that do more direct boosts to damage resistance, stuff like that. But a lot of different options for customizing, which is great. So, I'm playing this Chronomancer class that's kind of about debuffing the enemy, and I can apply some buffs to my teammates. But there's ways to customize beyond that. I can level up other classes and pull some of their abilities into this if I really want some sort of hybrid with it. Really cool the way that those are set up. I'm going to kind of cut a little bit of this short here because I got a time limit, but right now your plans for doing you have an open alpha coming up soon, correct?
No, we're already in public alpha, albeit it's really small, but we're going to go larger with it towards the end of this month or first week in November. And we're excited about that. And then early access would be like December, January, where everyone can get in. And then we go full free-to-play launch sort of a few months after that.
That's great. And then for... I'm going to revive a person over here. This is probably a trap. Once it goes free to play, what are you looking at as far as the different characters that people have access to, how to unlock more, or customization options like the monetization model of it?
Yeah, great question. So one thing we didn't touch on is there's dozens of classes, 24 classes right now, and when you start the game, you get to pick a class. You get at least one class, and then after you do the tutorial stuff, you'll get enough gold to purchase another class of your choosing, and then over time you can earn gold to buy any class, just like sort of League of Legends buying champions. And similar to League of Legends champions, there is a free rotation of classes as well. And then, of course, at any time you can try any of the classes before you purchase the gold that you earn through the match. The monetization model is it's just like League of Legends in that you can buy the classes with gold that you earn or real money currency, and then outfits and hats and cosmetic things are all the real money currency. Equipment with the talents and gems, that's all you earn in the game. There is no buying of power or anything like that in the game.
I think Anthony and I are going head to head here with our beam abilities.
That's funny.
That's good. I mean, there's obviously and I guess how quickly then is gold earned for unlocking the characters? Is that something that's going to be play 2 or 3 matches?
There's daily quests. The first one of the day bonuses. I mean, I shamelessly took the exact same cadence of Heroes of the Storm and League of Legends. So it's the exact same cadence there as sort of getting the classes and a little bit. It's actually a little bit faster, but it's pretty close to that same cadence.
So probably then 3 or 4 matches in, you'll be able to unlock one, or.
So your first completing the tutorials and your first couple of quests, it's going to be finish the tutorial and do 1 or 2 matches, and you'll be able to pick your next one. And then after that, to pick the some of the lower cost classes, it's 3 daily quests, sort of first win of the day type things, if I remember correctly.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Very
cool. Well, I need to wrap this up here. We'll probably see if we can't get this boss down before we go. But there's way more here than I can show off in a 15-minute video.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's like I said, I really like the ideas here, and I really like the way that mixing all these things together is very unique. Again, seeing so many things that are familiar to me from other games, from other genres, but blended in such a way that I'm okay, I kind of pick up on this, I kind of pick up on what this is, let me experiment around with a little bit. And I like the fact that I can upvote here. Yeah. All right, no, wait. Does Tony get a vote for himself on this? Because I'm not sure if I approve of that.
No, I have voted, Tony.
So yeah, showing off real quick here.
Being kind to our Veil Demon, because he laid off on us there so we could finish the interview. It was worthy of an accolade.
So real quick, showing off here the loot. So there's gems that give you straight stat bonuses. I'll show where those slot in, and then some actual gear here for, again, when it comes to, hey, time to pick a talent. these are the different talents that you can choose when you unlock those. Character levels, got some gold. So yeah, lots of really great ideas here. Lots of great things. I think like I can't wait to dive more into and check out more. So early access, you said December, public alpha starting soon.
Yeah, early access like December, January time frame. It is a public. We've already did a public alpha. It was a really small group because we're just kicking the tires on the scaling
Sure.
on the service, but we're gonna go broader, much broader with the alpha in the next like couple weeks. We're gonna be at TwitchCon. I don't know when your interview is gonna air, but we're gonna be at TwitchCon this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get this up the next couple of days. But yeah, so then you can see real quickly, I'll run through. This is the gear I picked up, and you can see you have different ones that you can select to affect those, and the stats of characters, different abilities that you can slot in, again, that you can pull in from other classes as you unlock those. And yeah, so run through the different modes. Actually, I'll bring that up here. You have a solo mode that just gives you AI friends. You can do strictly co-op with friends. 4 players against an AI-controlled Veil Demon versus that does matchmaking for co-op and for the Veil Demon, or you can do a custom match where you could pull in 5 of your friends and have one of them be the Veil Demon while the rest are your co-op buddies. So lots of different options for setting those up. I'm looking forward to playing more of this. Be sure to check out more information, playbreach.com, right? That's the site.
Playbreach.com. Yep.
So for
sign
more
up for the alpha there as well.
And then stay tuned for when that early alpha goes up. I'm sure once it gets into that early access stage, you can check out a stream from us for our Monday night co-op streams. We'll be getting one of these together to play it. Thank you all so much for taking the time with me today, answering my questions, and running through this. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of this.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.